Hello again. It's been a bit of a rough week had a cold and all that, but I'm gonna make up for it. I promise. Here we are, Christmas Eve, 2022. Another year where, frankly, we have no complaints. We were able to share some good wines, able to see our friends again, and spend some good time. So, all good. Looking forward to more of it. So here we are. It's just gonna be the family here tonight. So I figured we can enjoy couple of different bottles together, and I picked these two that I'm gonna tell you a little bit about. This is a Bordeaux, Ormes de Pèse, 1990. So quite the quite the senior here, let's say. And then this is a Côte Rôtie. As you know, I'm very partial to that part of the Rhône. And it's a 2015. We'll talk about this. And we're going to drink them in this order, the Bordeaux first and then this. So let's start with this Bordeaux. Ormes de Pèse is a small property in Pèse, in Saint-Estèphe. Pèse is the village, and Ormes means elm. And they were defined by these beautiful elm trees that they had. I think most of the old ones have gone, unfortunately. This property was bought after several generations of ownership going back to the 18th century, sorry. They were bought by Jean-Michel Caz's family in 1940, and it's become part of the portfolio that the Caz family has, including, of course, the flagship Lynchbage. And so this has a little bit of history, shares knowledge and pedigree, with its siblings, and it's always been a pretty good wine. It's about 50% Cabernet, 50% Merlot, a little bit more than 50 Cabernet. And they're planted in the same way. The Cabernet is planted on more of the sort of gravelly part of the vineyard, and the Merlot is in the more sandy. As we know, Merlot likes that kind of soil, sandy soil. There's a little bit of Cabernet Franc and a little bit of Petit Verdot that is added. I think, but you can sort of almost think about it as a 50-50 Cabernet Merlot, which is unusual for Saint-Estèphe because they tend to be much more towards the Cabernet Sauvignon. Anyway, here we are. This bottle was given to me by a friend who, unfortunately for him, was not able to drink and has stopped drinking. So he had a few bottles lying around. I've gotten a champagne that we drank together here. We had a video on the Bollinger, which was exceptional. And this is another one that also I was able to, he was nice enough to offer. And so I took it and I said, we're gonna share it with the family and we'll tell you about it. It's 1990 was an exceptional year. So hopefully this will benefit from that, even though it's a little bit old for a wine that was not necessarily, it's not a top flight wine that's supposed to age for 40, 50 years, but we see what we have. On the color here, it's it's got these sort of starting to develop some orange tint here around the edges, and it's a little bit clear on the edges, a little bit watery, let's say, but it's still pretty true to the Bordeaux expectation. The nose is very Bordeaux. It's got this sort of a little bit of the tartness. It's not much more it's not really on the Cabernet fruit anymore, not after all this age. And it's just sort of has, to me, it's Bordeaux right away. Sometimes you can't even, necessarily explain it, put it in words, which is unfortunate. But it's just a little bit, on the sour, not sour, on the tart side. Kind of bittersweet in the mouth as well. I think this is a wine that needs to be, there's a little bit of sweetness that develops on the tongue afterwards. So it's really an interesting sort of 1-2 evolution on the palate. Not much of a finish. I think, again, this is a wine that's a little bit tight, but it's still very good. And it develops its own personality after all these years. It's a snapshot, again, that you couldn't have gotten 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So it's all going to be different at different points in time. And I'm very happy to be experiencing this. It's going to be a great one to start with tonight and sort of stimulate, the company here, so we can move on to the next one, which is a whole other story. This is the Chambeyron Manin Côte Rôtie, 2015, which was another incredible year in the Northern Rhone, probably one of the best in the last 30 years or more. Anyway, it's a very small property that up until not too long ago was still focusing on their it was like a fruit orchard. They had, as we discussed before, in that part of the Rhone, they had a lot of apple trees and peach trees, and they made more money selling fruit than they were selling like wine in batch. But that, of course, has changed. We know that now. This is like a third generation Chambeyron family. It's the daughter, one of the daughters, Christine, I think, and then her sister is married to Bernard Levé, who's another big name in the Côte Rôtie. With all the Côte Rôties, they make several bottlings, as you may be familiar with. And it's so this, they just have this one very small, probably like less than an acre vineyard at the bottom of the Côte Brune, sort of hills. So it's a little bit more. It sort of matures a little bit, it ripens a little bit faster. It's a little bit more precocious, a little bit of a different profile. 100% Syrah, whole bunch. It's a serene sort of strand of Syrah. So it's those little tougher, smaller grapes that were prevalent actually in the Northern Rhone not so long ago. And then going back to 1960, and there's been some replanting since, but these are some really old vines. I've really wanted to taste this bottle. I bought it a lot at auction over 2 years ago, just before the beginning of the pandemic. And then since then, I've been wanting an opportunity, giving it a little bit of time, but wanting also an opportunity to taste it. So let's see what we have here. On the nose, it's just really it's more like on the game, not even like the fruit doesn't hit you first. It's more gamey, more fat, more savory. Some alcohol, also on the nose. It's not necessarily super alcoholic. No, it's 12.5, but you certainly have that volatile sort of energy. And it's really gonna open up some more. I mean, I opened it a few hours ago, but I think it needs a little more. Maybe I'll decant it. On the palate, it's really, you start to feel the peppercorn, the sort of ground peppercorn that you do from the Northern Rhone. It's definitely there. There's a little bit of sweetness that's kind of a sweet and sour taste that sort of develops, which is also very interesting. And the fruit, it's really more what I would call black fruit and some sort of other, again, more savory, like maybe leather and sort of bittersweet chocolate, all that stuff mixed together. It's a very interesting cocktail of experiences, some of sensations you experience. It's just it's really very it's interesting because like you compare it to the Jamais 2016 that we shared together, which was just incredibly smooth and very balanced. This is not necessarily not balanced. It's just, in a way, it's got more dimensions to it, and it makes you think a little bit more. Very, very interesting. Very good. I just love the depth and the power of this thing. And I don't mean alcoholic power. I mean the power of the different flavors that come through. Anyway, cheers. I hope everybody has a great Christmas, and see you soon.